Babe of the day. Babe of the day. Valerie Leon. Oh, those eyes. And lips. She had a lot going for her anyway, but those eyes and lips are mesmerizing. The English accent helps too. She was quite a busy actress, especially from the late 1960s to the mid-1980s, but she has made occasional returns to acting since then. Valerie came by her acting success honestly. She worked her way up the ladder doing modeling, stage work, and extras. She got into a number of notable British productions, with many of these having international appeal, especially in America. Her exotic look helped to get her the nickname of the English Raquel Welch. I don't think that's a bad nickname, but it may have been more appropriate to call her the English Julie Newmar. She was a tall, beautiful brunette at 5 feet 11 inches tall. Valerie was equally adept at playing comedy as well as serious roles, although she did comedy more often. I always like those glamour girl actresses who have a sense of humor. Too many of them try to be deep and serious all the time. Can you imagine if Valerie had the chance to play Catwoman? Yow! Valerie's first movie was the British comedy That Riviera Touch in 1966, where she was hired to play a girl in a bikini. For a while, this kind of small walk-on part is what she got in a number of British movies and TV shows, but her stock was quickly rising. In 1967, she got a role in the TV series of The Saint starring Roger Moore. England had a comedy team called Carry On, and they were a big deal. They made 31 films, 4 Christmas specials, a regular TV series, and many stage appearances. The Carry On franchise lasted from 1958 to 92. Valerie appeared in 6 of the movies and 1 of the TV specials, starting with Carry On Up the Khyber in 1968 and ending with Carry On Girls in 1973. Once she started appearing with the Carry On troupe, things just started happening. In 1968, she got a role in the Avengers TV series. In 1969, she got a small role as a hotel receptionist in the comedy crime keeper film The Italian Job. That same year, she did her first of many commercials for High Karate Aftershave. These commercials ran from 1969 to 1976. The gag of every one of them is that the man was so irresistible to a woman with his aftershave that he had to fight her off with karate. Valerie was the woman. These commercials will always be funny. My question is, why fight her? I would just let whatever happens, happen. Idiot guy. During the run of the High Karate commercials, Valerie continued to appear in a number of British TV shows and movies. In 1971, she appeared in the show The Persuader starring Roger Moore and Tony Curtis. Also that year, she got a rare leading role in the horror movie Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. Blood from the Mummy's Tomb was made by Hammer Productions, and if you're not familiar with Hammer, they made really good horror movies. They usually relied on psychological terror more than actual violence and gore, although sometimes they did that too. The Hammer films had some substance to them, and you can't say that of most horror movies. This was a good project for Valerie to be involved with, and it gave her one of her sexiest looks. She also played a dual role in it, one a heroine and the other an evil queen. Although this movie did well, and is considered one of Hammer's best films from the 1970s, it had a troubled production. Valerie was professional throughout, but there were a lot of problems among the crew. After Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, Valerie just kept working like always, doing the kind of parts people knew her for. In 1976, Valerie got another main role in the movie Queen Kong, which was a parody of King Kong. It was inspired by the remake of King Kong that year. Valerie played Queen of the Nabongas. This could have been a big thing for her, perhaps elevating her star status quite a bit, but it never saw theatrical release in the United Kingdom. Why? Dino De Laurentiis, who produced the remake, and RKO, who owned the copyright of King Kong, took legal action against this film and got it blocked from being seen in the UK. Queen Kong got a limited release in Italy and Germany, but most people didn't see it until many years later when it got released on DVD. This had to be disappointing for Valerie and everyone else involved. Movies take a lot of work, and when people can't see it, it hurts finances, careers, not to mention feelings. I'm sure the people involved with Queen Kong thought they were doing something cool that people would like. All was not lost, though, and Valerie ended up getting parts in some really notable films. In 1977, she got a small part as a hotel receptionist in the Bond movie The Spy Who Loved Me, starring Roger Moore. Valerie and Roger Moore were in a lot of film and TV projects together before this. In 1978, she had a part in his war movie, The Wild Geese. Later in 1978, she played Tanya in the Pink Panther movie, Revenge of the Pink Panther. If you were a kid growing up in the 70s or 80s, you knew the Pink Panther movies. It was an identifiable franchise, as James Bond was. Valerie kept working on TV, although not as much, but her next movie wouldn't be until 1983. She gained the distinction of working in a Roger Moore and a Sean Connery Bond movie. Valerie played a lady in the Bahamas in Never Say Never Again. Although Sean Connery returned as Bond one last time, this was an unofficial Bond movie as Eon Productions didn't make it. Still, this was a good movie and a commercial success. Valerie's part in it is really cool. She had a good amount of screen time in it, and although her character really didn't have a name or too much of a backstory, she had a strong presence in it. So Valerie was starting to get into bigger productions and even some bigger roles in the last decade. Then she did something peculiar. She quit acting. In 1984, she appeared in an episode of Kelly Monteith's comedy show on the BBC, then just dropped off. Why? Part of this may be due to the fact that she was married with young children. Valerie was married to a TV producer and director Michael Mills in 1974. In 1975, they had a son named Leon, and in 1977, they had a daughter named Merope. The children would explain, at least in part, why she started working less in the later 70s and early 80s. When she stopped in 1984, though, that may have been due to her husband's health issues. Michael was quite a bit older than her, and he died in 1988. I can only guess that she had family responsibilities that kept her away from acting. In 1991, she made a return to acting in an episode of Roy's Raiders, a short-lived sitcom on the BBC, and then nothing until 2006. Valerie has acted sporadically since then. Valerie was a very good, beautiful actress who was also fun. She's likable for the fact that she never came off as a pain. I don't want to name names, but there have been a lot of actresses from her time to today that always have problems with what they did in a movie, or some kind of social statement. Valerie did a lot of funny and or sexy stuff in her acting appearances that she doesn't seem to have a problem with. The sign of a true actress is one who can recognize it as acting, and nothing more. Valerie Leon is one glamorous and exceptional Babe of the Day. Babe of the Day.